Tifu, posting on Reddit about our sex life with CBAT and now our relationship has ended, by user dealer life. Okay, this exploded more than I expected, and has been a bit overwhelming with the messages, but thought I'd give an update. The attention hasn't been exactly positive and this hasn't been the best thing to happen for my relationship and it's now sadly ended. I didn't expect it to blow up so much. I should have used an anonymous name instead of my real name and our real ages. There aren't many 25-year-old Tyler Lifes who are in a relationship with their S/O for 2 years who is 20. Unfortunately, her younger sister recognized this and showed her parents, who wasn't happy at all and made the situation extremely awkward. What made it more awkward, and cemented the fact that it was me, is that they recognized the song. Once at a family dinner we were discussing music tastes and my ex-girlfriend stated that I have an odd taste in music. Everyone laughed and pressed me to play something from my phone of what I like as music, to which I then blessed their ears with CBAT. Her father laughed and said it was terrible. I guess we all have different tastes. Although I nodded in agreement at the time, I was thinking in my head that this is a great fucking song. We are over now and I am moving on. I already revealed my face on TikTok, but with the amount of hate I originally got I decided to say I didn't have it and backtracked. I don't think the song is that bad and I had no idea she didn't like it until recently, and as soon as I did I stopped. I didn't force her CBAT, not all can handle CBAT, I know it's different. I know a lot have asked for face reveal and playlist. My playlist I actually burned onto a CD and have been using my CD player. But I'll go on YouTube and try link all the songs in one playlist and share. Dr. made Reddit post and finished our relationship. Tifu by thinking that the emergency vet clinic gives out goodie bags and excitedly asking about it, by user capital Pickle 3493. So today we ended up having to bring our cat into the emergency veterinary clinic. He's now fine. After he was all fixed up and I had paid, I was waiting for the vet tech to bring him out so I could take him home. While I was waiting, I noticed a couple who had also just paid waiting, and assumed they too were waiting for their animal to come out. Before my cat was brought out, a different vet tech came out to the couple waiting, carrying a fancy paper bag. My dumb ass should have realized then and there, but alas, this is where I fucked up. Instead of realizing that the bag carried the ashes of their dead pet, I excitedly ask, from across the waiting room in a bright and sunny voice, "Oh, do we get goodie bags?" I realized what was in the bag as the words were coming out, but not soon enough to actually stop saying them. The vet tech handing the bag froze, mid-pass off. The woman receiving the bag, who was heavily pregnant, burst into tears immediately, and everyone else just looked deeply uncomfortable. I started apologizing immediately, and tried to explain, but it was too late. The room was dead silent except for the sobs of the pregnant lady. It was at this moment, of course, that the vet tech that had been working with our cat brings him out, cheerily proclaiming him happy and healthy and ready to go home. The couple with the goodie bag left in a hurry without looking up at me again. I have never been so fucking mortified in my life. I feel so bad that I made their already horrible day worse. Ugh. TL/DR, I was at the vet's office and asked a couple receiving a bag of their pet's remains if we all get goodie bags. Fuck. Tifu after leaving my date alone with my roommate, by user not true love. I didn't come home alone last night. I had a girl with me. She was confident and cute, and to be honest, I didn't expect someone like her to be interested in spending the night at my place considering how socially awkward I was during our entire date. My roommate was in the living room when we entered the apartment. I introduced the two of them before excusing myself to use the bathroom. I poop whenever I'm extremely nervous. I don't know why, but it's been like that since I was a kid. For most people, the possibility of sex is usually a source of excitement. For an inexperienced, introverted, and socially inept person like me, it's often a source of anxiety. Hence, the pooping. I decided to have a quick shower afterwards. Wash away whatever traces there were of my nervous reaction on the toilet. I must have been in the bathroom for more or less 30 minutes. I knew it was weird to disappear like that and I was totally prepared to awkwardly explain my absence. However, when I returned to the living room, I realized no explanation was necessary. My date was sound asleep in my roommate's arms while he was still wide awake. As soon as he saw me, he did the finger in front of the lips shush thing. I had no idea what the two of them did in the short time I was gone, but I smelled weed and I noticed glow-in-the-dark yo-yo toys and hula hoops, which explained why the living room was darker than before. My roommate suggested I smoke some weed to pass the time. I ended up smoking too much weed and eventually fell asleep on the couch. This morning when I woke up, my roommate and my date were no longer in the living room. My first instinct was to check my roommate's room. There they were, literally sleeping together. Most of their clothes were on the floor, except underwear. I tiptoed to my roommate's side of the bed and woke him the fuck up. The two of us whispered back and forth like we were discussing highly classified information. I accused him of fucking my date behind my back, whereas he denied that anything sexual happened and reminded me that he's gay as fuck. Towards the end of our whisper war, I didn't know what to believe anymore. I was too upset to think clearly. By the time my date woke up, my roommate and I were in the kitchen, preparing breakfast in complete silence. Long story short, my date backed up everything my roommate said. Nothing happened between them. Sleeping on the couch was uncomfortable and my roommate's bed was not. The end. I was outnumbered and desperate to defuse the tension, so I accepted whatever they said. Call me paranoid, but I'm convinced they fucked, which means even a gay guy has more success sleeping with girls than I do. TLDR, I brought a girl home, left her alone with my roommate to use the bathroom and found her sleeping with him. TIFU, by trusting my 13-year-old son to not try to get a brick of coke through customs, by Uzerabi 8th. This happened about 3 weeks ago. But the story starts a little further back in time. I have 2 kids, a, now, 16-year-old son and a 13-year-old son. A year-ish ago when we were all in COVID-19 lockdown, my eldest son was contacted by his teacher to check up on him and his well-being with a text along the lines of, "Hey, everything okay? Great guy, students love him." Eldest, being a bit of a joker, replied, "Everything fine, heist was a big success, money is hidden, somewhere," or something along those lines. Teacher, appreciating the joke, played along for a while, going as far as sending my son and some friends on scavenger hunts with distorted voice messages and all. They had their little, pretend, gangster empire for a little while. Which was a welcome merry change of affairs, having been in umpty lockdowns and boring online classes etc. And which, eventually, led to my son making a few bricks of cocaine from flour and wrapped in cling film and duct tape, which he then delivered to teacher's doorstep. All jokes, albeit a little, on the edge, but it was all harmless and in good spirit. Anyway, eventually the empire faded and everything went back to normal. Fast forward a year or so. Youngest, not being involved in anything of the above, went to swim at a friend who had a pool in his backyard. His friend, jokingly, told youngest he could only come over if he paid the entrance fee of some insane amount. Youngest then remembered eldest may still have a brick of cocaine lying around, which he did. So he took the brick, went to his friend, paid the entrance fee, and they played and swam with his friend that afternoon. When he went home, he put the brick back in his backpack. Fast forward another week. Holiday time. We were ready for our long overdue vacation and booked a vacation to Mallorca. We pack our bags, drive 2 hours to get to the airport and check in our suitcases, stroll around a little while on the airport, eat something, and then head towards customs. We're each carrying a backpack as hand luggage. Our backpacks go through the X-ray machine, we all go through the scanning port thingy, and as I'm gathering my keys, phone, wallet etc. from the conveyor belt, I notice an officer gesturing at my youngest to come over, holding up his backpack. Okay, by now it is painstakingly clear where this is going, what else would the backstory serve for, right? So my youngest is instructed to open his backpack, and he complies. Officer reaches in his backpack and begins unpacking. A book. A sweater. An iPad, all the regular stuff. I think nothing of it and assume it's just a random check. Stuff keeps coming out his backpack until finally the officer reaches in, his arm all the way deep into the backpack, and, in slow motion, out he pulls this brick of cocaine and a little plastic bag of weed, which was actual weed from our backyard, not the kind that gets you high, cut up in small pieces to make it look like weed, the marijuana kind. I still don't know where that came from, if it was also made by eldest, or maybe youngest decided to one-up his older brother. Not sure. Anyway. It took me a while to register what I was witnessing, and it took me another few seconds to put together the pieces on what had happened. I didn't know the entire story at that time, but I did gather that the brick in the officer's hands must be one of the bricks of cocaine from last year's adventure of eldest. Our passports were taken into custody, we were set apart and 4 policemen, 2 of them with, semi-automatic rifles appeared, which is quite a shock for European/Dutch people, we're not used to that, looking very much not amused. Mind you, we were at a German airport, Cologne, and, let's be honest here, you can say a lot about Germans, but one thing they aren't known for is their excellent sense of humor. A little later another 2 officers appeared with suitcases containing test kits, swabs, blue liquids, the whole shebang. Meanwhile I was trying to explain to the officers what had happened in my broken German, es war ein Witz auf seinen Freund. It was a prank on his friend. Of course it was a prank, every other coke smuggling person would say that. While images of rubber gloves and barking drug-sniffing dogs flashed before my eyes, my heart sunk deeper and deeper. As did my wife's and our kids. I don't know how long it took in total, but it felt like forever. Eventually, I guess about an hour or so later, when all tests had confirmed that the coke was, indeed, not coke and that the weed was, indeed, not marijuana, the 2 guys left with their tests and suitcases. We got a long lecture from one of the officers, deservedly so, that those kind of pranks weren't funny and that we were lucky they didn't charge us for the time lost by all these people and tests etc. The drugs were handed back to youngest, who was then instructed to bin them. Luckily we were at the airport very early, long lines at the airports, so we wanted to be sure, and so we still made our flight. We were even more lucky that this happened in Cologne, Germany, and not some faraway country where you get jailed for years for carrying a single joint. We were lucky youngest is a minor. We were lucky we weren't charged with anything, and lucky we weren't charged for the tests. We were lucky we still made our flight. And youngest is lucky we're still allowing him to live under our roof, smiley face, TL, DR. My 13-year-old son tried to get across the border with a brick of fake cocaine he forgot about. And I learned to not let my kids pack their own bags. Apparently 13 isn't old enough to pack your own bags. Also I'm probably on some FBI/CIA watch list. Asterisk edit, as I commented here, I'll explain the sad part. It may not have been very clear from the story, but isolation was nothing more but being told to step aside for a little. It wasn't like we were taken into a different interrogation room or anything. We were separated from the rest of the public by some officers, but that was that. That was isolation. People were generally just strolling by with their hand luggage, the odd one out looking a little confused as to what was going on, because the kilo or so, I guess, of coke was pretty visible for everyone, with a pretty normal, average-looking family of 4 standing behind some officers all flush-faced. Also, some people are making much more out of the teacher and gangster empire situation than it was. I tried to explain here and here and here and in a few other comments, but I guess it was a sort of you had to be there kind of situation. There was absolutely nothing going on, no grooming future mules, nothing inappropriate, culturally, or funny business. And, no, it's not a habit to prank with / about drugs. I wish some people could read this story a little more lightheartedly. Tifu by making a CBAT reference, by user revolutionary_lion18. For context, I live in a rural area, and for the time am saving money by going to a local community college before transferring to a much larger university. Since this is my first year in college, I don't really have too many friends yet, the caveat being a handful of just above acquaintances. The average class size is relatively small, nearing around 30 for a lecture and 10 to 15 for your run-of-the-mill courses. For one of these classes, psychology, my professor likes to use an app for attendance. The app asks whatever questions she assigns, none so far being related to the topic at hand. Some previous attendance questions have been, what is your favorite animal, or if you could go anywhere, where would you go? Rather benign questions that you can't really fuck up. It is also important to note that all of the answers are displayed on the board for everyone to see. Here is where the real story starts. I walk into class as usual and pull out my phone for the daily attendance question, which was as follows. What song would you like to walk into or out of every room to? Intro or outro? Me, being who I am and a rather comedic person, see my chance to make a reference to something taking the internet by storm. In all my genius glory, I respond with Spat, by Hudson Mohawk, and watch as it's plastered on the board for everyone to see. Only to my disappointment that nobody seemed to notice, or understand the reference. Since these submissions are anonymous, I wasn't ashamed at all that nobody got the joke, and enjoyed it for myself. That is until I noticed what the professor was doing. I watched as she wrote down the name of every song, and added them to our daily playlist, which she plays when we walk into the classroom and until everyone answers the attendance questions. Meaning that starting tomorrow, our class will have a personalized playlist each morning to walk into. I feel an immense amount of guilt, as now we will all be walking into this classroom and playing Russian roulette with our ears, and I'm the one to have loaded the gun. I fucked up and added Spat to the daily class playlist as a joke.